Hi everyone, I'm here in Abundance today, and I was hoping today to talk a little bit about inputs. And inputs are a little bit like entrances you give to your atoms or molecules to change the values of those geometries. And let's say if you hover over a circle, as you might already know, like there is an input diameter and an output geometry. And similarly, like if you're working already with GitHub molecules, GitHub molecules will have whatever inputs the creator has defined inside of that molecule. So in the case of this screw, the input that the creator designed was to give it an input of length. And so if I change that input value, the geometry of that molecule changes. And right, every abundance project is a molecule, and we can also create interior kind of like nested molecules inside of it. So I can go to my right click menu and add a molecule, and any molecule can have input atoms. And let's say like I want to add an input to this molecule that's called diameter, and that I can pass into the diameter of my circle, and then the output I can pass it out to the output of my circle. And if I go up, I'll see that input has become one of the inputs of my molecule, and then that makes it really easy for me to say I actually want the diameter to be 5. So this input is kind of like local to this molecule. However, if you're at the top level of your project, you can also define input atoms which are available to other people when you share your project or when someone else imports your project as a GitHub molecule. And those, kind of like work in the same way. So I can say I want maybe not diameter, but let's do height, right? And I'll just extrude my circle and give it the value of that input height. And inputs also have like we can have a lot of different types of inputs, right? So the default is a number, right? And like we pass a number height to that extrude. But let's say I wanted to pass the value of an input to a text atom with the value of my text, right? Like how would I do that? If I just gave it text here and I just passed it to my text, it wouldn't work because my text atom is actually expecting a string, but we're giving it a number. And instead what I have to do is change this to a string. And then change this to be, whatever I want. No. And then when you see your project from a higher level, you'll be able to change that as, Daniel, or write like anything else, Deed. And there's a lot of other input types that you can play around with. So one that I think is particularly useful is to give your input type the type geometry, and that allows you to pass in a shape from, or actually we're gonna give it to my interior molecule. We're gonna create an input here that is called shape, and we just want to move it. Let's say we're gonna move our shape, which we haven't yet defined, and we're gonna move it 50, and that's gonna become the output of our project. But then, right, like you see, this is waiting because we haven't given it a shape and it hasn't been able to compute. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna pass the extruded geometry from the circle into this input shape. And what you'll see is that I get this geometry after it's been moved inside the molecule. And I can pass that as my output, and that becomes the output of my project. So there are a lot of ways to play with inputs. They're really useful to make parametric designs and have other people let other people pick their own values for the project that you made. They're also really useful to make tools. Let's say I'm gonna place one called linear pattern, which I created a while ago, and in this one I have defined a geometry input as well as a number of times that this pattern will be repeated, as well as the distance in X, Y, and Z that linear pattern should be repeated. So if I pass on my extrude into the geometry of that atom, of that molecule, I can see that what results is 4 shapes distanced in the X direction, 11 points, and it's repeating the geometry I passed to it. So you can create your own molecules which do stuff like this, and inputs help you define what you want to be able to, what parameters or what values you want to be able to change inside of them. Hope that was helpful. Let me know if you, or let us know if you have any questions, throw them up in the forums, and happy making.